Shri Guru Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to our last session. Well, last session for the 18 days. Before we do that, we'll just look at chapter 17. What was the single word for chapter 17 on the poster? Does anybody remember? I don't think we specifically discussed it. What was the single word summary? Key. Yes. And the key was faith. Because at the end of chapter 17, Krishna says that whatever we do, which is the yajna, dana, and tapa, if we do it without faith in Krishna, he says that everything that you do is asat. What does the word asat mean? Asat means temporary. So the whole of chapter 17 begins with Arjuna asking the question, right? So what happens to those people who may not have complete faith in the scriptures, or they may just do their worship or follow some rituals based on culture, based on family tradition, or based on something that they themselves have created, or they are worshipping devatas in their own way, which is not found in the scriptures actually. So Arjuna's question in the 17th chapter is, what happens to such people? What kind of faith do they have? So Krishna says even this kind of faith is influenced by the three gunas, Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. So whatever we do, whether it is faith, whether it is your belief system, whether it is worship, Krishna says your rituals, everything, your mind control, your speech, your charity, your austerities, your penances, everything is under the influence of the three gunas. So that means your lifestyle is dictated by the guna that is actually influencing you. So Krishna has already said that to overcome the three gunas, you have to become his devotee. And if you become his devotee, you will be able to easily cross over into the transcendental platform. So in this context, we talked about the three brothers. They are influenced differently. Ravana under the influence of Rajagun, then Kumbhakarna under the influence of Tamagun, and Vibhishan under the influence of Sattvagun. How Vibhishana had painted the walls of his house with the words Rama. And Ravana got upset saying, how did you paint your house with the names of the Lord? And he said, it's not the name of the Lord. Ra is for Ravana and Ma is for Mandodari. So Rama. So in this way, Ravana was easily pleased. So we also talked about that the Lord actually wants us to make our way back to him. And to make our way back to him, we have to surrender to him. So essentially, the Lord was summarizing faith under the influence of the three gunas. So today, we'll look at chapter 18. And chapter 18 is also a summary of the Bhagavad Gita. And the Lord is going to summarize different sections that the Gita has been spoken. So what is the single word summary for chapter 18 that you saw on the poster today? surrender. So finally, we come to the point of surrender. But this topic of surrender is not that easy to understand. Huh? So what are we going to see? We are going to, although the chapter is very long, we have reduced the number of slides so that we can just stay focused on the last section of this particular chapter, which is the concept of surrender. So in the first 18 shlokas, the Lord is going to summarize both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. And interestingly, the 18th chapter also begins with a question. So here Arjuna asks the question, what is the difference between sannyasi and a tyagi? A sannyasi is fully renounced. A tyagi need not necessarily be a sannyasi, but he may also be practicing some austerities. So the difference between sannyas and tyag is the question that Arjuna asks in the beginning of chapter 18. And in response to that question, the Lord summarizes the whole Bhagavad Gita again. So far, what have we seen? Chapters 1 to 6 is about Karma Yoga. So technically speaking, it begins in the second chapter. So chapter 2 to 6 is Karma Yoga, because chapter 1 is just a description of what's happening on the battlefield and Arjuna's state of mind, where he is experiencing some amnesia. He's forgotten that he is a Kshatriya. And the middle 6 chapters, chapters 7 to 12, is all about Bhakti Yoga. And here, chapters 13 to 18 is all about Jnana Yoga. But that Jnana that is necessary to understand Bhakti and to perform Bhakti Yoga. So we already discussed why is Bhakti Yoga in the center. If Bhakti Yoga is the summum bonum of the Bhagavad Gita, why has it come in the center? It is protected by Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga on either sides. So chapter 13 began with the 6 items of knowledge, right? Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnana, Jnaya, and Prakriti and Purusha. And in chapter 14, Krishna said, the 3 gunas are keeping you here in this material world. So the 3 gunas were like the 3 jail cells. And in chapter 13, we also discovered that the Supreme Lord is the Paramatma. He's acting there as your attorney, and he's ready to get you out of this jail cell that you're in. But to get out of the jail cell, you have to follow the Lord's instructions. And the Lord's instructions in chapter 15 is that the Goloka positioning system says that if you are not following the path of Bhakti Yoga, then you have to follow the Vedic scriptures and use the analogy of the upside down banyan tree, where the reflection of the tree is just a reflection. It's not the real thing. The real thing is in the spiritual world. So if you've understood that the material world is just a reflection of the spiritual world, a perverted reflection, Prabhupada says, then you will make yourself in the opposite direction towards the root of the reflected tree, because if you hit the root, then you are also connected to the spiritual world. But it's not that easy, is it? Because as you're going in the different direction on that tree, you will encounter different types of inmates in the jail. Inmates who have divine qualities, inmates who have demoniac qualities. And that is what Krishna talks about in chapter 16. And we understood that in Kali Yuga, the divine and demoniac qualities are not in different people. They are in the same individual. Sometimes we are divine, sometimes we are demoniac. So how to conquer that demoniac tendency? especially if you have a little bit of faith. Then Krishna says, if you have faith, then you should have faith in me. And to overcome these demoniac tendencies, everything that you do should be done for the pleasure of Krishna, because anything else that you do is just a waste of time. Krishna says that in the 17th chapter. So as we discussed, the 18th chapter begins with Arjuna's question. What is the difference between sannyas and tyaga? So let us look at Krishna's summary of karma and jnana yoga. So essentially, Krishna is saying whatever work that we do, we should do it without attachment to the results. It is easier said than done. It is very difficult to achieve this stage. But let us look at how it is easy for a devotee. Etanyapikut apitu karmani sangam tyaktva phalani cha kartavya niti me partha nischitam matam uttamam. All these activities should be performed without attachment or expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Pritha. That is my final opinion. So remember, Krishna is still encouraging in the 18th chapter. He is encouraging Arjuna not to abandon his prescribed duties, rather to do his duty without expectation of any results. So not to worry about the fruits. It's very important that we perform our duty and responsibility and not have preconceived expectations of a particular outcome. Why is Krishna constantly saying, don't expect certain results, because the results are not in your hands? And we will find out why, because Krishna is going to talk about the 5 doers. So why should we not expect the results? Because if Arjuna's question is, what is the difference between a sannyas and a tyagi? A sannyasi gives up his family and does the duties and responsibilities as a sannyasi for his purification. So even a grihastha who performs his prescribed duties and responsibilities, if he does so, Krishna says, that will also purify him. So it is not necessary for us to become a sannyasi to become pure. So actually, it is far more difficult for a grihastha, with all the challenges and expectations and pressures that they experience. It is far more difficult and challenging for a grihastha to perform bhakti yoga. Someone who has given up their family can stay focused on any mark, jnana yoga mark or dhyana yoga mark. But imagine for a grihastha, we have so many competing priorities. To stay focused on Krishna, it's not easy. But Krishna says that tyagi who is focused on him is as good as a sannyasi. So you can understand Krishna's expectation of grihasthas is not to give up their grihastha ashram. So all of our duties and responsibilities are connected to our varna and the ashram. In this case, Arjuna is a kshatriya and he is also a grihastha. So he has 2 sets of duties and responsibilities, one based on varna and one based on ashram. So the prescribed duty should not be given up because Krishna says it purifies us. So a wife has to take care of family members, husband and children very nicely. That's her prescribed duty. Similarly, a husband has his prescribed duties towards the family. He has to earn a living, make sure his wife and children are sufficiently taken care of. So at no point Krishna is encouraging the grihasthas to give up their duties and responsibilities. So Krishna in this particular shloka is talking about the 5 doers. which is why he's saying don't be attached to the fruits or don't anticipate a particular outcome after you've done your duty. What is the reason for that? Adhishtanam tatha karta karanam cha prathak vidham vividhascha prathak cheshtah daivam chaivatra panchamam. So there are 5 doers. You are not the only doer. That is why you can't control the outcome. So the first doer is the body itself, which is the field of activity, which is the place of action. Second is the performer. The performer is the soul. The various senses, which is all of the things that your senses get attracted to. The different kinds of endeavor, which endeavor means some activity that you undertake. And ultimately the super soul. These are the 5 factors of action. So there are so many things that are involved in a particular activity. You may think I am the only one person doing the action, but let's just take an example of our own classes, the 18-day sessions that we've had. So today is the 18th session. I can't say to you that I am single-handedly responsible for all these sessions. So let us look at how that is. If I say I am single-handedly responsible, then I'm the greatest scam artist here. I'm a fool. So there are many reasons. Let's look at it one by one. First of all, the temple has to give us permission to hold these classes. So ultimately, the temple president wants these sessions to be done digitally. But to do that, a lot of planning happens. So first of all, it is the desire of the temple management to bring these classes at no cost to any of you, but at a great deal of cost to the temple, because preaching is one aspect, a significant aspect of our movement. But once a decision is made to bring these classes to you, a lot of other factors come into play. Somebody has to design the posters. Somebody in the temple has to do a digital campaign. So they need to have some marketing skills on Facebook, on Instagram. They have to set up the registration form to help you register. Then you need preachers who will come and take the class. Then even for the class, so many activities are involved. Somebody has to create the quiz links. Someone has to produce the certificates after you're done with your quiz. Somebody has to track your attendance. Somebody has to report back to the temple how this program is performing. This is just one such program in English. We have programs in Tamil, in Telugu, in Hindi, in Bengali, in Telugu, in Kannada. We have programs for youth, both girls and boys separately. So you can see how many different factors are at play to make one program work or successful. Therefore, I am not the only doer. There are so many other factors. So many volunteers are required to make this one program, to bring this one program to you. Then there are devotees who put the recordings on YouTube. Then they post it on the WhatsApp group. Devotees who send messages to you, encouraging you to attend the class. So many small aspects come into play in order for one program to come to fruition. What about your parents? Without your parents' blessings, you would not be here. So what about your entire family? Without your family's support, you would not be attending these classes. But who's the ultimate cause for why you and I are here? Who is the ultimate cause? We've looked at so many different devotees involved in this activity. Who is the ultimate cause why you and I are here in this class? Krishna. So Krishna has brought you and us together. So let's say if 250 people registered for the class, although this time there were a lot of delays in us getting the class done on time. So one is Krishna. There is another great Acharya who's responsible for these classes. Who is that great Acharya? A great devotee of the Lord. Who is responsible for this preaching movement? Srila Prabhupada. And behind Srila Prabhupada is the entire Guru Parampara, whose primary focus was to propagate the message of the Lord, specifically the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore you can understand anything good that happens in your life, Krishna is personally involved. Otherwise you and I would not be here. So you see how many devotees Krishna has used in order to bring you to this class. How much technology has been used in order for you to come and attend this class. So you see how much Krishna is involved in all our lives to bring you and I together. So for all the devotees, for all the volunteers, for Srila Prabhupada, for so many preachers, for the temple president, for the temple management, let's express our gratitude by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra for all of these souls who have been engaged by Krishna to have you come and listen to these classes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Therefore, Krishna is repeatedly telling us, don't worry about the results. Because ultimately, Krishna is responsible for anything good that happens in your life. So Krishna is Sarvakarana Karanam. He's the cause of all causes. Therefore, now you should be even more determined to become a devotee of Krishna. So I would be quite blind if I think that I am the sole cause of everything that happens in my life. Yes, definitely you set the ball rolling with certain thought processes and certain decisions and certain activities. But we have to remember that Krishna is involved. So therefore, if we cannot see the other causes for an action to happen, then we'd be quite blind. So Krishna has talked about the 5 doers, and the final doer and the only doer, the ultimate doer is Krishna himself. So from shlokas 19 to 40, Krishna is going to talk about the 3 gunas again. So in the 14th chapter, we heard about the gunas. The 17th chapter, we heard about the gunas. The 18th chapter, Krishna is again going to talk about the gunas. So gunas is such an important topic for us. We need to understand how the Sattvagun, Rajagun and Tamagun are always influencing us. So this is the concluding section of the gunas, and here Krishna is going to talk about our state of consciousness, what influences our understanding, our actions, our resolutions, our state of happiness, even our intelligence. Everything, again, Krishna will use the 3 gunas to describe this. So Krishna has already discussed gunas in detail. So essentially Krishna is saying these gunas are like an invisible rope and we are just hooked onto it. It's like we're not able to let go. But if you see how these gunas are operating on you, then you'll try to cut off the rope so that they are not treating you like a puppet, right? That is what this particular image depicts. The three gunas are manipulating the Jivatma like puppets. And that is why they are called the three bars. They are like your jailers. They are keeping you here. Once you go beyond the gunas, you will reach Krishna. So Krishna has spoken a lot, but in conclusion in this section, the most important thing that Krishna wants us to know is, anything that we do that is good for us will be like poison in the beginning. Krishna says, but you continue doing it because it is good for you. And by the time you reach the end stage, you will realize that it is actually nectar and it leads you to self-realization. So say, for example, what do we normally tell our children? You have to study hard now. You have to work hard now. You have to undergo some amount of sacrifice now so that your future is protected. That's what we tell our children. In the sense, sacrifice now, quote unquote, enjoy later. But for some of us parents, we will have children who want to enjoy now and they will think about sacrifice later. If they want to enjoy now, then Krishna says that's like Rajogun. Which parent will allow their child to do whatever they want? At some point, the parent will try and bring the child back to what is normal conduct or behavior. But sometimes some children are very adamant. They just don't want to study. So to them, playing is like nectar. But in the process of playing and not studying, they have spoiled their life. And therefore, that same play has become poisonous. And it just gives rise to more and more sense pleasure. So essentially, Krishna is saying, whatever is good for you may be difficult in the beginning. The medicine will be bitter. What is the medicine for us? What is the medicine for us? What is the medicine we've been talking about for the last 18 days? Chanting. So initially, chanting is going to be very bitter. You don't want to do it. You don't have the time. You don't have the taste. You're not experiencing great bliss when you're doing chanting. But is it the fault of the mantra or is it the fault of the Jivatma? What do you think? Is it the fault of the mantra, that the mantra is not powerful? Or is it the fault of the Jivatma, who does not have a taste? So it's not the fault of the mantra. So for example, Prabhupada always says, if somebody has jaundice and you give them candy, that candy will be very bitter. In the sense, the taste has completely changed for a person who is jaundiced. But for a person who's normal, candy will taste like candy. It will taste sweet. So because you are in a diseased condition, chanting is not very attractive. Chanting, you just don't feel like doing because of our diseased condition. But Krishna is saying that is the best medicine. Because of our past sinful activities, we will not appreciate chanting in the beginning. But Acharya will say, whether you like it or not, you do it. Whether you are able to chant properly or not, you do it. Whether you are able to focus on chanting or not, you do it. Because why are the Acharyas insisting that you do it, whether you like it or not, whether you're good at it or not, whether you're enjoying it or not? Why is the Acharya telling you, just do it? What's the reason? what is the reason that we should just do it? Exactly, it starts working. The result will come. The result will come. I mean, it takes us 22 years or 20 years or something like that to get a college degree. For so long, we just studied and studied and studied and studied until we got the degree. So similarly, we just have to chant. It doesn't matter whether it is perfect, it is imperfect, whether you're doing in morning, afternoon, late night, with beads, without beads, doesn't matter in the beginning. In the beginning, what matters is that you have to develop a taste for chanting. So if we get in touch with fire, as somebody rightly said, fire is purifying. So even the mantra is purifying. So we really don't have to worry. So one of these days, we will actually enjoy chanting. That is why Krishna is saying in the beginning, it will be like poison. But understand it is medicine that is recommended for Kali Yuga. Eventually, it will be like nectar. That same poison actually tastes like nectar down the road. So there is one medicine and one message over these 18 days that we have been talking about, which is chant, chant, chant. Do your japa, get started. Chant, chant, chant. So there was a father who had to give his son some medicine because he was sick. So he thought, okay, my son is definitely not going to accept this medicine very easily. He's going to resist. He's going to throw it out. He's going to spit it out. That's what children do, right? How many children very willingly take medicine that is bitter? Yeah, it's a struggle for the parent to get the child to accept medicine that is bitter. So the father decided he will put inside a fruit. So he inserted the medicine inside the fruit and he gave it to his child, and his child asked, "What is this?" The father said, "It is jamun fruit. You have it, it is very nice, it's very sweet." And the son said, "Okay, I will have it." Little later on, the father asked him, "So, did you have the fruit?" And the son said, "Yes, I had the fruit, but inside it I found some seed. I threw out the seed and I only had the fruit." Not a very smart father. He should have stood around and made sure his son had the seed also. The seed was the medicine. So after attending 18 sessions, actually 21 sessions, right? We had 2 sessions on chanting and 1 session on managing the mind. After attending all these sessions, you are saying, I enjoyed all the sessions, but I'm going to throw away the seed like that little kid. What is that seed? The seed is chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So you will be in the same situation if you attended all these 18 days and then leave these 18 days and don't get started with chanting. It is like throwing away the medicine that is actually going to cure you. So therefore, Krishna says, to come into the Sattva Gun first, it's whatever you do, it is like poison. But by the time you end, it will be like nectar. And the exact opposite is true for Rajogun. For Tamogun, it doesn't matter. Medicine, nectar, they can't distinguish between anything. So they are completely in the mode of illusion. And they are overcome by sleep, laziness, and delusion. So somehow or the other, even if we can pick these people to chant the holy names of the Lord, then slowly from Tamogun, they'll come up to Rajogun and maybe ultimately to Sattvagun. So Krishna has talked about how do you experience happiness in the 3 modes, this particular slide. So in our quest for happiness, so we should not forget whether our happiness is permanent. Can we sustain that happiness? And how do we reach that final stage of transcendental bliss? To do that, you have to practice spirituality. So ultimately, no one is free from the influence of the three gunas. That's what Krishna is saying. Krishna is saying even the devatas are under the influence of the three gunas. But Krishna has already given us a secret formula. Just by practicing bhakti yoga, we can get free from the influence of the three gunas. And the best way to do it is to chant the holy names of the Lord. Now, in the next section, so I'm going through the sections very quickly. Krishna, to conclude the three gunas section, here Krishna is saying, Natadasti prithivyam va divi deveshu va punaha sattvam prakriti jair muktam yade bhisyatre gunaihi. There is no being existing, either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, which is freed from the three modes born of material nature. So essentially, Krishna is saying this whole cosmos, I have designed it in such a way that these three gunas influence you. So in this particular section, 41 to 55, Krishna talks about the ideal worker. So in this section, Krishna talks about Varna and Ashrama. What kind of work should be done by the four Varnas? Krishna himself speaks about what is an ideal activity that one should be engaged in. So if you have to look at work, Krishna is talking about it here. In the 46th Sloka, Krishna is saying, by worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. So Krishna is saying, none of us have to change our work. What do we have to change? We just have to worship the Supreme Lord. By worshipping the Supreme Lord, your work will purify you. So work plus Krishna equals purification. Even if Krishna is not there in the beginning, just doing your prescribed duties itself, Krishna says, will purify you and bring you to the Sattvagun stage. It is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. So, there is no sin when you're doing your own duty as per your varnashram. So Krishna is not looking for perfection. Krishna is looking for your determination, enthusiasm, and commitment to doing your prescribed duties. So better you do your own duty than to do somebody else's duty and do it perfectly. So by doing this, Krishna says, you will please me. By just sticking to your own duties and responsibilities, Krishna is saying, you will please me. And in this regard, we can look at this following question. There is this cobbler and the Brahmana, okay? The cobbler is doing his duty of mending people's shoes. It's not exactly the topmost work. You could say it's a work that is very menial and may not be considered very important by any of us. But he was a great devotee of the Lord. Then there was this Brahmana. You could say Brahmana, they kind of occupy a higher post in society because they are supposed to be well educated in the scriptures. They are supposed to guide society on the right path. This Brahmana was also somewhat of a devotee of the Lord. So Narada Muni decides, let me go visit them, the traveling sage. So he visits the Brahmana and he says, I'm going to go see Lord Narayana. Tell me what you want. Is there any message I can take to the Lord on your behalf? And the Brahmana says, actually, only thing I want to know is, can you ask the Lord, will I come back to him in this life? Because I've been practicing very nicely. I'm a Brahmana, I'm leading very pure life. So will I go back to the Lord in this life? Narada Muni said, okay, I will ask, I will check and I'll come back to you. Then Narada Muni visits the cobbler, and the cobbler says, I don't have anything to ask the Lord. And Narada Muni says, no, you ask please, because I'm going to go see my Lord. At least I will ask on your behalf. The cobbler asked the same question. I hope my Lord is doing fine and everything is okay. But yeah, it'll be nice if I know when I will come back to the Lord. So when Narada Muni goes to Lord Narayana and tells him, here are two people practicing devotional service in different ways. They both are saying they are your devotees. They want to know who will come back to you first. The Brahmana is anxious to find out, and so is the cobbler. So Lord Narayana does not answer Narada Muni's question. Rather, he says, I want you to go back to them and tell them what I am doing. You go and tell the Brahmana that when I met Lord Narayana, he was trying to thread the eye of a needle with an elephant. And he inserted the tail into the eye of the needle and he pulled the elephant onto the other side of the needle. So Narada Muni said, okay, I will go and relay what you're asking me to relay to them. So Narada Muni goes to the Brahmana and says, I met the Lord. Do you know what the Lord was doing? The Lord was threading the eye of the needle with an elephant. To this, the Brahmana said, oh, come on. Why are you trying to fool me? Who can thread the eye of a needle with an elephant? It doesn't even make sense. Is it logical? Can you take the tail of an elephant into the eye of the needle and then pull the entire elephant through the eye of the needle? Is that even possible? I mean, we have to use a little bit of common sense and logic here. So I think you are just making up some story, some nonsense. So Narada Muni goes to the cobbler and he tells him the same thing. Do you know what the Lord was doing? And the cobbler simply responded by saying, my Lord can do anything. He is so beautiful. He is so fantastic. He is such a mystic. He can do anything. What is it that my Lord cannot do? Thread the eye of a needle with an elephant? Certainly he can do that. So Narad Muni goes back and reports to Lord Narayana the responses of these two personalities, the Brahmana and the cobbler. And the Lord tells Narada Muni, the cobbler will come back to me in this life. For the Brahmana, he has to have millions of births before he comes back to me. And Narada Muni asks Lord Narayana, but why? Because the Brahmana is far more pure. He's in a higher Varna. And obviously coming to the higher Varna also means that you've done a lot of pious activities. And the Lord says, yeah, but then he doesn't have faith in me. When you told him that I was threading the eye of the needle with an elephant, he refused to believe you. So since he does not have faith in me, how can he come back to me? Whereas the cobbler didn't doubt you for a single second when you told him that I was engaged in this activity. He was convinced that the Lord can do anything. Therefore, Krishna is saying, each of us in whichever Varna and ashram we are in, we should simply do our duty, but do it with faith in Krishna. So we don't have to do somebody else's duty, we just have to do our own duty. So essentially Krishna is saying, don't try to be a photocopy of somebody else. We are all born in a very unique and original way. And the original is very beautiful. Krishna does not make any mistakes. So you do what you can to please Krishna in the capacity and with the intelligence and whatever it is that Krishna has provided you. That is the only thing that Krishna wants from you is your faith and your determination. So here Krishna is saying, Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato jnatva vishate tadanantaram. So this is the concluding section of that work. Krishna is saying very categorically, very clearly, one can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. Which means bhaktya mam abhijanati, not jnana mam abhijanati, not karma mam abhijanati. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Only by performing bhakti can the Jivatma actually understand who I am. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. So Krishna is saying, by practicing bhakti, eventually you will come to the stage where you're always thinking of Krishna. And when you're such a great devotee, Krishna says you will enter the spiritual world. So that means bhakti is the means by which you can reach Krishna. There is no other way. And in this regard, there is a beautiful pastime which is there on our channel. The Lord's pastimes with the wives of the Brahmanas. So one day, Krishna and Balaram go into the forest. And that day, they did not bring their lunch. Usually, their mothers would pack lunch for them. But Krishna said, I'm going to give you a treat, so don't bring any lunch. So they're walking into the forest, they're grazing the cows and the calves, and suddenly the boys say, hey Krishna, hey Balaram, we are very hungry, please help us. We are starving. To which the Lord says, inside this forest, there are these Vipras, these Brahmanas. Vipras or Brahmanas means they are well versed in the Vedic scriptures, specifically the art of performing yajnas for the purposes of achieving a material goal. Krishna says they are doing some yajna. Why don't you go to them? You mention my name, you mention Balaram's name, and tell them, we have sent you, and ask them for prasadam. So the boys are very obedient. The Brahmanas are very busy with performing their yajna. And the little boys glorify the Brahmanas, and with all respect and humility, they say, we have been sent by Krishna and Balaram. They are hungry. Won't you please give them and us some prasadam? To which the Brahmanas, what do? Nothing. They just ignore the boys. So the boys are very disappointed. They go back to Krishna and Balaram and they tell Krishna, we followed your instructions, but it didn't work. We came back empty-handed. The Brahmanas did not even acknowledge us. They did not say yes. They did not say no. They just continued doing their yajna. Krishna just smiled. He said what to do. They all want to go to the heavenly planets. That's why they are so intently performing this yajna. The yajna was being performed by the Brahmanas because they wanted a better birth in their next life. They wanted an assurance that they will go to the heavenly planets. So Krishna said, the wives of the Brahmanas are preparing nice foodstuffs for the yajna, because yajna is not complete without offerings to the yajna purusha. Krishna said, this time you go to them. You go to the patnis of the Brahmanas and tell them Krishna and Balaram are here. They have sent you to kindly give us some prasadam. So when the young cowherd boys, the gopas, go to the patnis, the minute they hear the word Krishna, they immediately stop all their activities. They pack up whatever it is that they had cooked for the yajna. And all of the wives go running out of their homes to serve Krishna and Balaram personally. And as they are rushing out of their homes, their family members, their husbands, their fathers, mothers-in-law, brothers are trying to stop them, saying, "What are you doing?" Women are not allowed to rush out of the house, definitely not Brahmana's wives. Your position, the yajna is not complete until you sit and perform the final oblations with your husbands. Where are you going? And they didn't listen, so they were told not to go, but they disobeyed their family members and still rushed out to see Krishna and Balaram, carrying with them all of the foodstuffs that they had prepared for the yajna. And when they reach Krishna, they see this beautiful form of Krishna. Because all this time, they were in the forest doing all of this yajna. They used to hear there is this beautiful person called Krishna. He's performed all these wonderful, magical, mystical activities. And their desire and attraction for Krishna increases. The more they heard about Krishna and his pastimes, the more they wanted to see him. So imagine when they finally hear Krishna is just around the corner, how much anxiety they would have had to go see Krishna, the love of their life. So they fell in love with Krishna just by hearing about Krishna. So Krishna tells them, "Thank you very much for bringing all this wonderful, delicious prasadam. Now I want you to go back." And the wives protest. They ask Krishna, "All our life we've been waiting for you. We've finally seen you, and you are asking us to go back. Why are you being so cruel, Krishna?" So the wives are asking Krishna, "How can you be so cruel with us? Our entire life's journey is fulfilled by taking your darshan. Now you're asking us to go back to families that has already rejected us." Krishna says, "Don't worry. I've already taken care of that. You go back and help your husbands complete their yajna." So very reluctantly, all of the wives come back. So here you can see that the Brahmana's wives knew who Krishna and Balaram were because they were always hearing about their pastimes. Whereas the Brahmanas were so engrossed with their yajnas, with the recitation of all these different Vedic mantras for different benefits, when they heard the name Krishna and Balaram, it did not impact them at all. They did not think the whole purpose why we are doing the yajna is ultimately one day to go back to God. They didn't think like that at all. So when the wives come back, nobody is upset. The Brahmanas begin glorifying their wives by saying, "See, we've been studying the Vedic scriptures for so long. But who got darshan of the Lord? We didn't get darshan because we are so unfortunate that we did not recognize that the Supreme Lord himself was here. But you see, you heard his name and you rushed out. And therefore, our life is purified because you have such deep love for Krishna." So that's how the husbands responded to their wives coming back, saying, "You are great devotees of the Lord. We didn't have the same fortune of having that kind of love for Krishna, but you had it. So your varna and your ashram does not matter when it comes to spirituality. Anybody can perform bhakti and can reach the Supreme Lord in one lifetime. You don't have to wait for multiple lifetimes to do this." And here Krishna is saying there is no other way. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. And bhakti begins with Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atmanivedanam. Because the wives of the Brahmanas had heard about Krishna, their entire hearts were purified. And they would repeat these pastimes among themselves. So they were also doing kirtanam. And simply Shravanam and Kirtanam, with that they were completely surrendered to the Supreme. So your Varna and Ashrama does not matter. Krishna is simply saying you do your duties and responsibilities as per your Varna and Ashrama, but keep me in the center. So Bhakti Yoga is the way to that wonderful place of eternal peace and bliss, which is what the Brahmana Patnis realize. So the concluding section of what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, which is Chetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasya matparaha buddhi yogam upashritya matchitta satatam bhava. In all activities, Krishna is saying, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. So Krishna tells Arjuna, Mam anusmara yuddhyacha. Think of me and fight. If you do that, you are under my protection. So similarly, we have to think of Krishna and do our duties and responsibilities. If we do that, then Krishna says you are under my protection. So Krishna is saying, depend upon me. Krishna wants you to be dependent upon him. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. So all of us may have a lot of questions for Krishna, small things, a lot of why questions we'll have. Why, Krishna, you are making me struggle so much? Why am I going through so many difficulties? Financial difficulties, health difficulties, family difficulties. So many challenges, Krishna, why? So these are not the questions that we should be asking Krishna. We should be asking Krishna, when am I coming back to you? When am I going to be engaged in your service all the time? When can I hear about you? When can I chant your holy names? Those are the questions we have to ask. There is this pastime of Jayadratha in the Mahabharata. So this Jayadratha is the brother-in-law of Duryodhana. So the 100 brothers had one sister. Any idea what is the sister's name? Jayadratha was married to the sister, to the one sister of the 100 brothers. What is the name of the sister? Yes. So that means Jayadratha is like a brother-in-law for Draupadi. So Jayadratha was married to Dushala. So when the Pandavas were in exile, they had to go outside to hunt for food. So oftentimes they would leave Draupadi Devi alone at the ashram while they were foraging for food. In this particular case, they had requested 2 sages to watch over Draupadi and protect her while they were out hunting for food. And on that particular day, Jayadratha sees Draupadi and he wants to know who is this beautiful woman. And he sends his minister. His minister's name is Kotikasya, to find out who is she. So Kotikasya goes to visit the ashram and he finds out, oh, this is Draupadi, the wife of the Pandavas. And he goes and informs Jayadratha. Now Jayadratha, in spite of knowing that Draupadi was married to the Pandavas, when he meets her, he proposes to marry her. Now, initially, Draupadi welcomed him very nicely because, after all, she recognized him as brother-in-law. But in the absence of the husbands, if the brother-in-law comes to propose marriage to you, obviously, Draupadi was not very impressed. She vehemently refused his proposal. And being a Kshatriya, he got hot-headed and he abducts Draupadi and starts taking her away, much to the astonishment of others who had witnessed this particular incident. So when the Pandavas return to the ashram, they find that Draupadi is missing and they are told what had actually happened. So immediately Yudhishthir Maharaj orders his brothers that they should go ahead and rescue Draupadi. So all 5 brothers go in their chariots trying to chase Jayadratha, but by now Jayadratha was way ahead. So what does Arjuna do? He uses his divine astra to kill all the soldiers. Rather, in the battle, all the soldiers were killed, and leaving only Jayadratha with Draupadi on his chariot. So at that time, Arjuna uses a divine weapon to kill the horses of Jayadratha. And now Jayadratha is terrified. So he abandons Draupadi and starts running away. So Yudhishthir instructs that they should go seize him, but not kill him. So hearing this instruction, Arjuna kills the horses. And then Bhima shaves the head of Jayadratha and leaves like 5 tufts in different places on his head. They bind him up, and the brothers return with Jayadratha and ask Draupadi what should be the fate of Jayadratha. To which Draupadi says, since we have already treated him like a slave, as an act of mercy, we should release him, because after all, I don't want to bring pain into my, sister-in-law's life. This way, they release Jayadratha. Now, of course, for Jayadratha, this was a huge humiliation. And what does he do? He hands over his portion of the kingdom to his wife, and he does severe penances to propitiate Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is, after all, Ashutosh. He is easily pleased. So Lord Shiva comes before Jayadratha and says, I'm very pleased with your austerities. Tell me what I can do for you. And what does Jayadratha ask for? He says, I want the ability to defeat all the 5 Pandavas. And Shiva told him, oh, it's not possible. It's not possible because the Lord is personally protecting them. That's what Lord Shiva tells him. I cannot give you the boon that you're asking because my Supreme Lord, Krishna, is personally protecting the Pandavas. So Jayadratha says, okay, wait a minute. After all, I have done my austerities. You have to give me something in return. So Lord Shiva says, okay, one thing I can do is in the battle, I can help you keep the Pandavas at a distance, but for one day. Only for one day. You will not be able to kill them because they are personally protected by the Supreme Lord. So very reluctantly, Shiva grants him this boon, saying, you will not be able to defeat the Pandavas, but you will be able to fight them for one full day. Keep them at a distance. You can check their advance. But before he leaves, Lord Shiva tells Jayadratha even though I'm giving you this boon, I must warn you, because Krishna is the personal charioteer of Arjuna. This boon may not hold up with Arjuna, because the Lord is personally driving the chariot. So Jayadratha says, I'll take my chances. So then Jayadratha joins the fight. On day 11, he fights this battle on the side of the Kauravas. And on the 11th day, Jayadratha defeats Drupada and his forces. Then, to avenge that defeat, Abhimanyu defeats Jayadratha in a sword fight. And Jayadratha is forced to flee. So it is on the 13th day that Dronacharya and others come up with this Chakravyuha form to avenge the defeat of Jayadratha. So they all trap Abhimanyu and they kill him. Although Abhimanyu fights very bravely, he's there left all alone. And of course, the death of Abhimanyu is a huge blow to the Pandavas. And at that time, Yudhishthira thinks, I should have killed him when we caught him first. But anyway, it was too late. So Arjuna takes this death very personally, and he makes a vow that the very next day, before the sun sets, he would either kill Jayadratha, if not, he will set himself on fire. So on the 14th day, Arjuna wants to take revenge. Again, Dronacharya arranges for a combination of different vyuhas, and Duryodhana assures Jayadratha, our entire job today is only to protect you. Why were they so keen on protecting Jayadratha? Because if they protected Jayadratha, then Arjuna would have to commit the unthinkable, which is to immolate himself. So Arjuna is fighting very boldly, and but unfortunately, Jayadratha is so well protected, he's not able to do much, and the sun has set. And he's looking at Krishna saying, what should I do? He said, who asked you to take all these fancy promises did you consult me? Before you said, oh, I will kill Jayadratha the next day, or else I will immolate myself. Did you consult me before you did that? Now you are asking for my help. So anyway, chalo, let us see what we can do. So it is at that time that Jayadratha and Duryodhana come and taunt Arjuna saying, oh, the sun has set. We are all anticipating you walking into the fire. So they are taunting Arjuna. At that time, Krishna uses his Sudarshan Chakra to cover the sun. And Krishna points out, there is Jayadratha. Decapitate him right away using your divine astra. And Arjuna follows the instruction of Krishna, because sometimes Krishna's devotees are very emotional. They make decisions that's not for their best interest. Still, Krishna protects them. Arjuna did not take any consultation from Krishna before he made this grand promise. Still, Krishna came to help his devotee. So Jayadratha's head falls onto his father's lap, and there was another boom. So his decapitated head is taken along with the arrow from the battlefield, landing on the lap of the father, Vridakshattra. This Vridakshattra had a boon that whoever is responsible for his son's severed head falling onto the ground, that person's head would also burst into flames. So technically, Arjuna has killed Jayadratha. But the head lands on the father's lap. The father is so shocked to see his own son's head landing on his lap. Instinctively, he gets up and the head rolls onto the ground, and thus Pradakshatra himself is destroyed in that very moment. So the reason for narrating this particular pastime is that sometimes the devotees of the Lord also, may not always do the right thing, may not always think before they act. Still, Krishna comes to protect Arjuna. Krishna is always there to protect his devotees. Hence, Krishna is saying, in all activities, just depend on me and work always under my protection in such devotional service. Be fully conscious of me. So, this particular shloka is repeated a couple of times with slight variation. We heard the shloka in the 34th shloka of the 9th chapter. Manmana bhava bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanam matparayana. That particular shloka, Krishna said, engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. In the 65th shloka, Krishna says, Manmana bhava madbhaktaha madhyaji mam namaskuru. So the first two lines are identical. Mam evaishyasi satyam te pratijani priyosi me. The same four instructions. This time Krishna is saying what he is going to do. In this 34th shloka, Krishna is saying what you should do. And if you do this, you will come to me. Here in the 65th shloka, Krishna is saying, if you do this, this is what I will do. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So to those devotees who are surrendered to Krishna, this is how Krishna is engaged in your life. That Krishna is personally responsible for you. I was actually reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, the 5th chapter today. And in one of the purports, Prabhupada explains, and using a beautiful analogy, some of us are orphans and some of us are not. And Prabhupada says, an orphan is completely dependent on the mercy of others for his well-being. Whereas sometimes the son, even though he's struggling, he is always under the protection of his father. So the two situations are entirely different. Sometimes the father will chastise the child so that the child does the right thing, or the child learns the right thing to do. So Prabhupada explains in that purport that even in the devotee's life, when the devotee goes astray, Krishna will chastise this devotee in such a way that he will pull them back towards him. And Prabhupada explains, sometimes that may mean Krishna will take away what belongs to you so that you become dependent on him. So there is a difference between being an orphan, which means we don't have the protection of Krishna, versus having the protection of Krishna. Even if we make a mistake, still Krishna will come into your life and organize things in such a way that he will pull you back towards him. This is the loving chastisement of the Divine Father for his child who has gone astray. So it is better to be under the protection of Krishna, knowing fully well he will always come for you, rather than being under the control of Mayadev. So that's why Krishna says, I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So Krishna never lets his devotees down. He's always taking care of them. He's actively engaged in their life. So we should not think Krishna will make everything perfect in our lives. Sometimes Krishna is going to send the difficulties your way so that you can get more attached to him. So Krishna is only concerned about how close you're getting to him. Sometimes if things are going very nicely in your life, then you are not that surrendered to Krishna. So Krishna has to instigate you to surrender to him even more, and sometimes he will create situations that cause you to become more dependent on him. So the entire essence of the Bhagavad Gita is in the 66th shloka. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyah mokshayishyami ma shuchah. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. What does this mean? Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. So Krishna is not asking you to abandon dharma. He is asking you to abandon false dharma upon which you may become dependent. So the only dharma that matters to all of us is that we are servants of Krishna and we are meant to be dependent on him completely. When we become dependent on Krishna completely, having complete faith that he is always there for your protection, then Krishna says, I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. In the sense, don't worry. Don't worry. Sometimes we may ask our friend, give me 10,000 rupees. I'm in a little bit of a trouble. Little later, you'll think, oh, what will others say? And your friend convinces you, don't worry about what others say. I'm here to help you. Doesn't matter what others think. I will give you the 10,000 rupees. Please don't worry. So similarly, Krishna says, become dependent on me. Don't worry about what others say, whether you're following dharma or not. I am there. I am telling you, be dependent on me. If you are dependent on me, then I will help you. I will clear you of all of the sins. So Krishna is saying, don't be afraid. Because we think sometimes we have to protect ourselves. Will Krishna protect me or not? We don't know. Or that's how we think. Krishna is saying, don't worry. I will protect you. So similarly, we should not worry about what others say. Oh, you're chanting, you're so young. Why wasting your time chanting now? What about your studies? What about your job? What about your earning capacity? Don't listen to any of them. Krishna is saying, you do this, I will protect you. Just like naturally, there is an attraction between a boy and a girl. Did the boy go and purchase that attraction in some shop? No. Similarly, naturally, you have an attraction for Krishna. You don't have to purchase it. You simply have to hear and chant, and it will revive your Krishna consciousness, and gradually you will come to that original stage of pure love for Krishna. So therefore, do not fear. Krishna is saying. So there is a benefit now Krishna is going to talk about about hearing, actually about preaching, then studying the Bhagavad Gita, and then hearing the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna's expectation is that you will only be dependent on him and nobody else. So when he says surrender, he's saying surrender to me completely. Like the wives of the Brahmanas were surrendered to the Lord completely. For a single second, they didn't think what will happen to us if we leave our families. They just thought, I don't care. I'll go to Krishna and Krishna will find a solution. What was the solution Krishna found? They were afraid, you are asking us to go back, they will reject us. Krishna said, I've already taken care of it. But you please go back. And Krishna instructs them, always think of me, always chant my names, always think of all my pastimes. Before sending the wives back to the husbands, this is what he tells them. So Krishna's expectation is that you surrender to him alone. Mam ekam sharanam raja. If you do that, you will achieve this transcendental peace and bliss. You will go back to the highest kingdom, which is the Vaikuntha planets or Golok Vrindavan. And Krishna is saying, you will be completely freed of all sinful reactions. We need not worry. So the highest dharma Krishna is saying is, we have to be his devotee. Devotion means we have to be his servants. So here, Krishna also talks about the results. 68 and 69. Ya idam paramam guhyam madbhaktesh abhidhasyati bhaktim mai param kritva mam evaishyatya samshayaha. For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. So anybody who is sharing this knowledge about the Bhagavad Gita with others is certainly engaged in preaching activities. And such a person, Krishna is saying, there is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So essentially, Krishna is saying, take this knowledge and spread it as far and wide as you can. So we are also dependent on you for helping us spread this knowledge far and wide. So it will be good if you can also help us by taking this quiz, or rather, little poll. You can see a poll that has come up. Just take this poll, because you don't have to worry about whether they will come for class or not. You just have to invite them. Remember, Krishna is the ultimate doer. Whoever is meant to hear the Bhagavad Gita, learn from it, chant the holy names of the Lord, and transform their lives, then that is Krishna's role in their life. You are just going to be an instrument by helping us propagate this knowledge. So the next batch will start pretty soon, in a month and a half, on an auspicious day, which is April 14th. So we'll share that with you. In the meantime, just take the poll. Also, at the same time, I'd like to encourage all of you to purchase the Bhagavad Gita if you don't already have it. Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, it'll be very, very beneficial for you. Even if you don't read it or study it, it is still auspicious to have the holy book in your home. Yeah, so the two books that you should always have at home is the Bhagavad Gita and also the Srimad Bhagavatam. So do take the poll. Let us know if you need the books or a Bhagavad Gita kit. We'd be happy to send it to you. You can message one of us who's posting the messages on the groups, and we can coordinate with you to get the Bhagavad Gita to you, along with the chanting beads and the chanting bag. So the real secret is Krishna is saying, encourage others to read, study, hear the Bhagavad Gita, because when they receive this knowledge, they will also become dear to the Supreme Lord, but you will become even more dear to the Supreme Lord because you are engaged in the direct service of the Lord. Digitally, definitely you can do it. So what are the things you can do for the youngsters here? You can post it on your Instagram page. We will share the poster with you. You can update your WhatsApp status. You can post it on your Facebook account and try and reach as many people. Tell them how you attended these sessions and how it benefited you. And maybe they will also come listening to you. Right? So even if you read the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says you're worshipping me when you're reading the Bhagavad Gita. Even if you just hear the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says you're freed of all sins and you will reach the higher planetary systems, not the spiritual world, but the higher planetary systems. So certainly Krishna is not letting you go very easily. He's saying you've heard the Bhagavad Gita, at a minimum, this is the benefit that you get. But if you're actually studying the Bhagavad Gita, then Krishna says you're actually worshipping me with your intelligence. But if you share this knowledge, Krishna says, then you become his very, very dear son. So then Sanjaya says, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanudharaha, Tatra Shrir Vijayo Bhutihi, Dhruva Nitir Matirma. So wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, and extraordinary power and morality. That is my opinion. So Krishna has talked about his opinion. Now here, Sanjaya is talking about his opinion. What is he saying? Whoever is hearing this, and wherever there is Bhagavad Gita in the residence, there will always be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality, which means dharma will be protected. Yeah. This is the best results for all of us. So to conclude, here is a certificate that you'll get. So we'll give you a few days to finish the 18 quizzes for the 18 chapters. And we will send you this beautiful digital certificate signed by our temple president, His Grace Varda Krishna Prabhu, with your name on it. Yes. So we'll give you through this weekend, and then give us a week's time. We will have the certificates back to you. So here is the next batch that will be taken by me. This will begin on April 14th. April 14th happens to be New Year for many of us who will be celebrating New Year on April 14th. So on this auspicious day, you can share this poster and the registration link. We'll put this in all the WhatsApp group. And you can encourage your friends, family members, neighbors, colleagues to sign up for this session. And for all of you who are here, who are attending these sessions for the first time, we have a 21-day challenge for you. Remember, we talked about this a few days back. We'll begin this 21-day challenge on Feb 17th. Again, I will share this poster in all the groups. We'd like you to join us for mantra meditation or japa every morning. You can join us as early as 4:30, but many of you may not be used to waking up that early. But at least 5:30 you join. You can chant 4 rounds till 6:05. If you can't join at 5:30, then certainly please join at 5:45 so you can at least chant 2 rounds. We'll do a little Sloka recitation and or Harikatha. And Sunday evenings, we'd like you to join the Bhagavatam class. So this is a 21-day challenge for you. And if you do something for 21 days, it is said it will then become a habit. So we want to develop all these good habits. So we'll stop here. If there are any questions on this particular chapter, the 18th chapter, and especially the 66 Sloka, which many of us may have questions on, I'd be happy to take those questions. So you can raise your hand or you can post your question. And we can unmute you and we can discuss the. Okay. Any questions? Yes, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Yeah, all classes will be online. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to go back and listen to the class recordings before you answer the quiz, it's there on the channel. The recordings are there. Yeah. So do share the posters. Okay. Okay, any questions? No questions. Yes, Kalyan, you have a question?
Mataji,
Yes,
you told Bhagavatam classes on Sunday, na? It is online or
online.
online? For that link also comes in this group? Huh?
Yeah, once you register for the 21-day challenge.
Okay, okay.
Hmm?
Okay, sure. Thank you, Mataji.
Okay, Haribol. Where are you from, Kalyan?
I am from Bangalore only.
Okay. You are close to our temple? Or where do you stay?
Yes.
Oh,
I am staying in near Tanisandra. 5-6 club. 5-6
okay,
club.
good. So maybe you can catch up with us in the
Yes.
temple one of these days.
Sure, madam.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions on this particular chapter? Okay. So looking forward to seeing many of you in the morning japa. Yeah. And very good. Some of you have already registered for the 21-day challenge. Okay, that's nice. Thank you very much. We will conclude our session here. Vancha kalpadarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much, devotees. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.